All right, welcome. Hello, hello. As I said, we are live. If you can stay for the entire time, wonderful. You will get all the information. If not, this class will be recorded, and you can always get a recording on our academy, on our plant-based academy. If this is the first time we are meeting, I am Zuzana, and behind the scenes is Nikki. And Nikki will be taking care of all the technical aspects of today's session. Feel free to say hi in the chat box. You can let us know where you're from. And if you have any questions throughout the class, feel free to type it in, and Nikki will be the one answering any questions. Also, if there's any resources, Nikki will type those in. And if you're not watching this session live, then you will find the resources below the video as well. So again, welcome to today's class. We will be talking about healthy plant-based eating on a budget. And I feel like this is a really good topic, especially for this time where the prices of food are climbing up and up. And we often get question or concern from clients and even friends who say, well, it's all well and good to be eating healthy, to be eating a plant-based diet. However, it's expensive. And, it is a common misconception that healthy plant-based eating is quite pricey. It could be, especially with all the items that are available on the market. The marketing strategies are amazing from some companies. Anything that is labeled these days healthy or plant-based or vegan has a pretty high price tag associated with it. However, you can still eat amazingly abundant plant-based diet and make it quite affordable. It's not that hard, but there is what I call like an educational barrier that you have to overcome. And what I mean by that is you have to learn some of the basic strategies and habits around food. Like, for example, how and where you buy your food, how you prepare, how you store your food, so that way you're not really wasting food, where to find nutrient-dense foods that are affordable, and so forth. And that's really what we'll be talking about today. It's not that difficult, I promise. We'll go over all these basics on how to shop, how to store our food, how to prepare our food, and I promise we'll have some fun. All right. So first things first, let's talk about the word budget. Okay. Like anything that we want to instill in our life, any habit, anything that we are focusing on, we have to have a positive association with it. And the troublesome thing is that when we think about budget or budgeting, we often think about limiting ourselves in some way. And you probably know, I don't have to tell you, that our thoughts and our words are extremely powerful. And really, our thoughts and our words create our reality, right? So if we are viewing budgeting in a negative way, we are associating budget with feeling limited, that's really what we'll be experiencing. And I don't want that for you. I want budgeting to be actually fun and a way to create more abundance in your life. And you might be wondering, well, how does budget create more abundance? Well, it's pretty simple. I truly believe, and Nikki too, it's one of our mottos is that really plant-based living is about abundant living. It's really an opportunity for us to live more abundantly. So creating a budget really allows us to figure out where we are spending our money, how we are spending our money, maybe perhaps even allow us to establish a little bit stronger connection with our food, so we can live more consciously and we can experience more abundance in our life. So looking at budget as something that is fun, that allows us to live more consciously, is really where I would like you to start going with that. And that's really my first first takeaway for today is to know your reasons. Why do you want to establish budget? And it could be really for many reasons. It's not just for those who maybe are feeling financially stressed. Budget could be a wonderful opportunity for anybody to get a little bit better connection with money, get a little bit better connection with food, and really understand where we are spending our money, right? So make sure that you know your reasons and attach some kind of positive outcome with that. And if you do that, creating a budget for yourself for food will be a lot of fun. So now let's move into the real stuff, the stuff that will actually allows us to understand how to spend less money on our groceries. And I do have my trusted notes here because I want to stick to them. I'm known to run off script a lot. When I do that, a lot of the times it ends up being a very long class. So we are going to stick to 3 basic principles. I call them the 3 P's. The first one is to plan, the second one is purchase, and the last one is prepare. And that's really going to be our main structure for today's class. So let's talk about planning. All right. First things first, we need to take inventory. So inventory of what we already have in our house. And there is a lot of food waste in our Western culture. And a lot of the times it is because we have things in our household we don't really know it's quite there. And we keep buying more, and then we end up having to throw it away because maybe it went bad, it's past the expiry date, and so forth. So understanding what you have in your household is really, really important when you're starting to plan for what are you going to purchase, right? So it's a good idea once in a while. I usually do it on Saturdays, and I just go through the fridge and just take a note of what's there. And I really take a pride of having a nice clean fridge. Actually, I am very happy when our fridge is empty because it really allows me to understand how well I'm doing when it comes to utilizing the foods that we have in our household. So go over your fridge, freezer too, although obviously things in the freezer will last a little bit longer. Just once in a while, check on it. Another place to look at is your fruit bowl. How is your fruit bowl looking? What can you utilize? What can you still use? And what perhaps needs to be, frozen or, put up in your smoothies right away, and so forth. And once you have taken account of what's still in your house, it's a good idea to maybe even write it down, because we do want to utilize the food as much as we can. And once we have that idea, we can start to plan for some kind of meals ahead. And yes, I'm talking about meal planning. I know that it's not really a favorite topic for everybody, but it is a very important part of saving money and really having a nice budget and sticking to it. Because if you know what you're eating, you're going to run into less unplanned shopping trips. It really helps a lot to plan your meals. There's 3 things that I can think of right from the top of my head. The first thing is, first of all, it saves money because you're going to plan your breakfast, you're going to plan your lunches, dinners, some snacks, and you will know exactly what you need to purchase when you actually go to the grocery store, right? Rather than just going and just buying random things. So that's first thing, so that we are sticking to only the things that we need. We don't buy anything that we are not going to utilize through the week. The other thing is that when you have some kind of plan for your meals, it saves a lot of time. And what I mean by it is that, let's say at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to cook? And now you think of something, and now you have to run into a grocery store, and you might have to do it 2, 3, 4 times a week, sometimes even on a nightly basis. You're running into the store to try to get the ingredients that you might need for a healthy meal. And obviously, that's time consuming. And third thing, it saves a lot of stress. How often at the end of the day you're walking or driving home from work and you're trying to figure out what are you going to eat, right? And it could be stressful. What do you want to eat? What do you want to eat? You ask every single member of the family, everybody wants something different. It could be very, very stressful. So meal planning is a very much of a win-win-win situation, and I highly, highly recommend it. Don't make it a daunting task. All you have to do is just simply sit down and write down for the next 3-4 days what are you going to have for breakfast, lunch, dinner, what kind of snacks that you want to prepare. And we actually have a huge component on this on our Plant-Based Academy. We actually have it as a part of our 8-week program, where it's called integrated living, and we spend pretty much a whole week just talking about meal planning and prepping and so forth, to really help you integrate this important part into your day-to-day life. All right. So obviously, if you're planning your meals, you're also going to be cooking your meals at home. And that's a big one, because you could cook a huge amount of food for a quite a limit on a quite a limited budget, compared to buying that kind of already prepared food from a store, or going to get a takeout, or even taking the whole family out for dinner. So if you want to eat inexpensively, cooking at home is going to be important. And also it is a beautiful way to know what you're eating, because when you're buying prepared foods, if you are going to restaurants often, you really cannot control what you're putting into your body. You might have an idea how it's prepared, but you really don't know what kind of oils they're using, if they're using too much salt in the food. So start to prepare meals for yourself. Even if you don't love cooking right now, that's totally fine. You can stick with something super simple. Something like soups and stews and chilies and one pot meals are a great option for somebody who is just starting out. And also, those are amazing meals. Those I just mentioned are really good for leftovers. So if you're not a person who loves to spend time in a kitchen, you can cook maybe 2-3 times a week. You can make a big batch of something and have it and eat it for a couple days in a row. Or even if you make a lot and you don't like eating the same food over and over, you can freeze it. Because one thing that we always promote, to make the plant-based lifestyle sustainable and to make sure that you're getting all your nutrients, we always talk about a variety, making sure that you are including all kinds of plant-based foods into your diet. So definitely, I am not saying that you should be eating the same meal over and over night after night, but repeating meals a couple times a week is totally fine. And again, freezing is also a great way. That way you're not wasting food, right? Keeping things simple goes a long way. And even though we love spending time in the kitchen, we also have life. We have we have jobs, and we cannot afford to spend hours in the kitchen every single day. So keep it simple. That's the goal here. And I'll just give you an example of how we are eating throughout the day, and perhaps you can take a little bit of a idea of how your days could look like. So for breakfast, it doesn't have to be complicated. You can just have some fruit, and often we make it a mono meal, meaning that we are eating the same type of fruit. So we have a big bowl of grapes, for example, and that's your breakfast. And then later through the day, you can make a smoothie. It's super simple, it's quick. More complicated meals, save those for lunches and dinners. And again, it doesn't have to be super complicated meal. Few ingredients is usually better than trying to create a gourmet meal every single day. It's fun to create these types of special meals, but save it for special occasions, like I don't know, Thanksgiving or Christmas or birthday or whatever it might be. But other than that, our digestive system actually does better when we don't combine too many ingredients. So not only that it's better for your budget, it's also better for your health when you're sticking with just a few ingredients. All right, you can easily find fun meals and recipes on Pinterest. That's one of my go-tos when I'm looking for an inspiration. And speaking of inspiration, remember I was saying is something that is important is to utilize your leftover ingredients. And that's what Pinterest is really amazing for. During the summertime, I was cooking at a retreat center, and sometimes I was cooking for big groups of people, and maybe I would misjudge how much rice I would need or lasagna noodles, and then I would end up with all this leftover, and I would be wondering, well, what do I do with it? Because obviously it's organic, it's good quality food. I don't want to throw it away, and I would just go to Pinterest and I would just type, what to do with or recipes with leftover rice, and you would be amazed how many different recipes you can find utilizing your leftovers. Okay, so don't ever throw food away. And if you do have to do that, if something is spoiled, give it back to the land. That's a huge one because plant-based foods come from earth and they like to go back to the earth. So have a compost. If you have a garden, that's a really great way to utilize all these beautiful foods that maybe are not good for eating anymore, but they can go back to the land. All right, friends. So that's that. We definitely do want to plan our meals. And once we plan our meals, we need to create a shopping list, right? So just looking over the recipes, looking over the ingredients that you will need. And of course, check your supplies first. So look into your pantry, make sure that you're not buying something that you already have on hand, and stick to your shopping list when you go to a grocery store. They say that about 60 to 70% of our grocery purchases are actually unplanned. We go to the store and we see something that catches our eye and we're like, okay, I'm going to buy this. But, when you have a shopping list, that's what the shopping list is for. Stick to it. Of course, there might be some items that are on sale and you're like, okay, I could stock up on that, but make sure that you can use it. There's no point of buying 3 bunches of kale that are on sale and then you end up using only 2 bunches through the week and then you have to throw away that third one. So just think before you buy. And what else can I say about having a shopping list? That's really it. That's really that simple. Just create your shopping list. We do offer a shopping list template. It is part of our 8-week program again. So that's a really nice tool to have as well because it already lists some of the common plant-based foods that most recipes call for. All right, so what is our takeaway? That was our plan. And the takeaway from it it comes with a quote from Winston Churchill, I believe, was the first one who said it, is failing to plan is planning to fail. So taking the time to prepare your meals will really help minimize your grocery spending. And you will always make sure that you're eating good quality foods. It also saves a lot of stress. And you're really doing good, not only for your health, but also for the health of your family. Now let's move on to the next P, which is purchase. Could be quite simple, right? But there is ways that we can definitely save money when it comes to choosing where we are spending our money. And I want to talk about finding inexpensive, high-quality fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, and other plant-based foods. I definitely suggest, I say a lot of definitelys, definitely. I suggest, friends, that you shop only once or twice per week. it's totally doable. I know that perhaps now you might be shopping more often and you're wondering, well, how can I do it? It's absolutely doable. It saves you a lot of time and improve where you buy your foods. So for us, it's quite easy to shop only once or twice a week because we like to shop at from our local farms. And so our local farms, we have quite a few of them around our vicinity here. And one of the best ways to shop at your local farm is to visit a farmer's market, right? Because a lot of the farmers from all around the city are coming into the city once a week, sometimes twice a week, and they're selling all their goods there. So you can find farmers market throughout the whole year in most cities. Like here in Vancouver, our summer farmers markets are pretty much in every neighborhood, and they're 2, sometimes 3 times a week. But in a winter time, it's only once a week, and it's in one place. So the best thing to do is to find a farmers market in your neighborhood is to Google it. And I think Nikki will put some links in the comments so you can connect directly with that. And whether you live in Canada or the US, you will have the link there. And yeah, so that's kind of our best tip to get high quality seasonal fruits and veggies, and sometimes even other items at the farmers market. And I have a few tips for you when it comes to shopping at the farmers market. If you are really trying to find foods on the budget, there is 2 things you could do. First, when you go to the farmers market, just about 15-20 minutes before the farmers market closes down, quite often the farmers actually reduce their produce by about 50%, sometimes even more, because they really are trying to sell it rather than loading it back into their truck and taking it back to the farm where it might even spoil. So that's something that you can experiment with. We don't do it because for 2 reasons. We are early birds, so we get up nice and early, and I like to be at a farmer's market, and you can probably nod now that that's the truth. I like to be there as soon as I can, if I can, just because obviously the produce is not picked over yet. And so if I have my plan on what I want to prepare through the week, I have certain ideas of what I want to get at the farmer's market. And if I get there late, I'm risking the chance of missing out. So yeah, it's the fear of missing out. So I try to be there nice and early. And also so that's that. But I understand that for some of you it might be a good tip, so give that a try. Go there one day when they are just about to close. The other thing that could save quite a bit of money is to look for, they call it either ugly deals or seconds. Okay, I know that it doesn't sound overly appealing, but those are still fruits and veggies that are perfectly fine to consume. A lot of the times, they call it seconds, is that they're maybe aesthetically not the most appealing. One of our farms here, they call it ugly deals, and it's potatoes, usually beets and carrots. And they have some imperfections, that they are still very good, and often they are just so delicious that there is really no reason to stay away from them. And often they're about 50% less than the perfectly fine and beautiful carrots and so forth. And the seconds are also a good idea. That's usually fruits that are super ripe. So they are really ready for consumption right away. They won't last too long. So you have a couple options. You can either utilize them as quickly as possible. You could freeze them. And save them for winter, which is always a great idea, because things like peaches and apricots and berries, they are not available locally, especially not if you live in places where the weather is not tropical weather the whole year long. You won't be able to buy local fruits often during the winter months, but now you have it frozen and you didn't spend a crazy amount of money for it. Or the other option is to make jams from it. So that's something that I started doing this summer. And I was living in the interior here in British Columbia, and it's just so abundant with amazing fruits. And so a few times during the summer, I bought big boxes. One time it was plums, and I made plum jam, and apples, made some applesauce and so forth. So that's always an option as well. So look for those. And you can also find these ugly deals or the seconds at your local grocery store. So this is not just a tip for the farmers market. Look at your local grocery stores. We often do it with bananas and then freeze them for smoothies. If you're not able to attend a farmer's market, or for some reason it's nowhere close to your neighborhood, you can try to join a CSA program. So CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And what you basically do is you sign up for a share in the CSA program, and it entitles you to receive a box of fresh fruits and veggies from your local farms, usually on weekly or bi-weekly basis. And I find that this is a really good option for families, again, that are maybe busy and they don't have time, or we are a busy professional and the farmers market is on a day where it just doesn't fit your schedule. This is a really good way to go. We don't do it. Several reasons for it. I love the idea and the experience of going to a farmer's market. I really like to get to know the farmers in my neighborhood, and I usually talk to them about the practices that they use on the farm. So for me, doing this delivery is not really an option, or not, it is an option, but it's not something that I want to do. But for many of you, it could be a good idea. And Nikki will put a link for your nearest CSA where you can search for it, or you can simply just go onto Google and search CSA programs that are offered in your city. All right. So that's shopping for produce. The other thing is that we still have to shop for things like beans, nuts, seeds, grains, and so forth. And when you have a shopping list, the step that I would suggest taking is that look at your shopping list and think about, okay, where can I get most of this stuff? Rather than running from store to store, is there one store that I can get the best deals on as much of these items as possible? And one way to do it is to utilize, it's an app. There's few of them, but here in Canada, the one that we use is called Reebee, Reebee. And again, I think you will have it in the comments there. Or Flip is another one, and that one is available in the US as well. It's FLIPP. And basically what it is, it's a compilation of all the sale flyers in your city or in your neighborhood. It's a shopping tool that helps you really decide where to buy certain things. So if there are certain items you're looking for, you can type it there and then just see, where do I want to go? Maybe you will go to one or two stores and try to get as many of the items as possible for the best price. Another place to try to shop for these items is Asian and international markets. They often carry tropical fruits for very reasonable prices. So if you like things like mangoes and pineapple and melons or coconuts, things even like bok choy, sometimes they carry beans and seaweed and so forth. The downfall of these international markets is that very rarely the food is organic, but you're still doing yourself a favor by buying plant-based foods rather than processed, heavily processed packaged foods. Tip that I will give you is to stop buying convenience foods and convenient produce. What I mean by that, and you probably will clue in right away, is like packaged greens, packaged salad greens, pre-cut carrots, or pre-cut fruit like pineapple that is already perfectly peeled and ready to go, and so forth, because you're paying a hefty, yeah, it's convenient, but you're paying a hefty price for something like that. Plus, many times it doesn't really taste that great, because once you take the peel off and cut fruit and veggies, they start to oxidize. So you're better off to really just buy the whole thing and prepare it yourself. It takes a little bit extra time, maybe not, because personally, if we buy packaged greens, I still like to wash them. So it's not like it really saves me that much time. And just to give you an idea, if we go to the farmer's market, we buy 3 heads of lettuce, and that usually is around $9. And if I go to Whole Foods and buy a box of greens, the price went drastically up here. I don't know, probably in your city as well, but in your grocery store. But now, box of greens is about $9, so $8.99. Compared to 3 heads of lettuce, it will probably create 2-3 times more for me if I actually prepare it and cut it myself. Same thing goes with something like pineapple. You can buy a small container of pineapple for $6-7. Think about if you buy an entire pineapple. Right now is the season. We are in November. Pineapple is readily available, and you can buy it anywhere between $3 to $5. A whole big pineapple, it definitely creates more volume, right? So just think that way. Convenience is not always the best, and you definitely pay for convenient food. Another place to purchase groceries is online. We do it about every 2 to 3 months. We place a big bulk order for things like nuts, seeds, some seaweeds, coconut oil. If you can find a supplier, online supplier with good quality foods that are fresh, they are ethically and sustainably sourced, you really have a winning situation, because sometimes running from one store to another to try to find the best deal and to also make sure that it's properly packaged, so it's not crazily packaged in plastic and so forth. If you can find a good supplier online, you really it can save yourself a lot of money and really feel good about it, because you are supporting a company that is focused on sustainability as well. I know that often they sell in larger quantities, and often if you buy larger quantities, you also save on the shipping, or sometimes get even a free shipping. So maybe just ask around in your family, some family members or friends, if they want to go on it with you, and you can place a big order every couple months, maybe every quarter, and just split it between all of you. So again, that's a great way to save some money there. And if you're buying nuts and seeds in bulk, I would suggest that you store those in your freezer so they will last for quite some time. All right. And final tip here when it comes to purchase is to shop at discount stores. And this is our little secret. Many people really don't know about it, but stores like in the States, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Ross. Here in Canada, we have Winners and HomeSense. They often stock gourmet foods and superfoods. So things like high quality olive oils or coconut oil, or superfoods like spirulina and goji berries and all kinds of stuff like that. And it's very well priced. It's definitely way below the price that you would buy it in your regular supermarket. All right. So the big key takeaway for this part is to visit your local farmers market. That's something that I think would be super beneficial for you. And so making a commitment to visit your farmers market this coming weekend, and have some fun with it. If you're lucky enough, you might even have several of them. So maybe every week, go to a different farmers market, because different neighborhoods would maybe have different farmers. And even if the farmers are the same, you might find that the prices might be different. I've noticed that, due to the fact that certain neighborhoods are more like an upscaling neighborhoods to others, you might find that the same bag of potatoes from the same farmer will be priced differently at different parts of the city. So have some fun and visit your local farmers market. All right, now we are moving into the last P, which is prepare. Okay, prepare, because you have all this beautiful food that you brought home. And it's important to understand how to properly store it and how to prepare it. So that way you're not wasting food. All right. We have a complete guide. It's perfectly laid out for you on how to store all your food. So it starts from with herbs and fruits and vegetables, and it moves on to nuts, seeds, oils, grains. Everything is listed there. Honestly, if I was going to name every single item and how to store it, it would be another hour here. So I am going to refer you to that. Look through it and make sure that you are storing your produce and your other food properly, so that way it lasts for as long as possible. It's a good practice to prep. So once you actually bring the food home, prep for a few days ahead. You can either cook the entire meals. So if you know that you're going to have a busy few days ahead, it's good to spend 2-3 hours in the kitchen and really prepare those big meals for lunches or for dinners mostly ahead of time. Otherwise, you can maybe just pre-cook some beans, some lentils, some grains like quinoa, rice. You can cut your vegetables, you can wash everything, you can put it in your fridge and have it ready to go. So you're resisting the temptation of buying something on a go. Because if you have a fridge stocked with all kinds of good stuff and you didn't prepare and you're running late from work, or your kids had all kinds of activities and you're driving home, it's very tempting to just order pizza or go to a restaurant and eat in a restaurant. And that obviously will do two things. First of all, you're going to blow your budget if you have a budget, and secondly, you're going to waste the food that is in your fridge. So I'm not saying not to do it ever, but preparing ahead will definitely save you a lot of time. So take the time. We usually do it twice a week. We do it on Sundays, because right now either Saturday or Sunday is our farmers market day. So, and the food is nice and fresh. So it's a good time for us to take the time to prep in the kitchen. And then maybe one more time during the week on Wednesday. The food prep is not usually as intense, but still it's a time to prep some things that will make our life easier throughout the week. And again, clean up that kitchen every single week. I do take a lot of pride in that, and it's a really easy and fun task. You just take the things out and then ask yourself, what can I make with all this food that I have here? And things like stir fries or soups are always good option. Right now on our counter, it's Thursday, so we are close to the end of the week, and I found some mushrooms in the fridge and some broccoli and cabbage. I'm just going to make a nice big stir fry, put some curry powder into it, and really create a fun meal. And the fun about it is that every week it could be something different, depends what you have in your fridge, right? If you end up with some greens at the end of the week, like spinach or kale, don't throw it away. You can do a couple of things with it. You can either make a juice from it, so get your juicer out and juice all these greens. They still have nutrients in them, so there's no need to throw it away. Or you could also chop it up. Even things like zucchinis, they can be chopped up and put in a freezer and store for smoothies. And if you end up with some root vegetables, you can always make some kraut, some sauerkraut, right? Sauerkraut doesn't have to be made just out of cabbage. You can really utilize any types of veggies that you have on hand and make some fermented vegetables. That was really one of the reasons why we started our plant-based academy, was to teach you, friends, how to prepare a lot of these foods on your own in your own kitchen. So first of all, you don't have to be spending crazy amount of money on it, but also you develop this beautiful connection with the food that you're eating. Because when it comes to good quality sauerkraut, one small jar about this big, about 500 ml jar of wild sauerkraut, and you're spending 10, 12, sometimes $15 on it, you can make a huge, like huge. Sometimes, like when I make sauerkraut, I make about 4 liters of it, and it costs maybe $3, $4. So just start thinking in those ways. What can I make at home, and how can I utilize the food that I already have on hand? So the big takeaway for this last step is to cook at home. Choose a few simple recipes and get cooking. Prepare yourself for a few days ahead. All right. Now, to close our session, I have a few other tips that could be very helpful. The first one is to learn to substitute ingredients. And you will find that sometimes you're reading a recipe and it has ingredients that you don't necessarily have on hand. Doesn't mean that you cannot make that recipe. Just even go to, Google is a good friend. You just type how to substitute and put that in, and you will find that there's a lot of different substitutes. Like if recipe calls for quinoa, I don't have quinoa on hand, and I can use other things like rice or buckwheat and so forth, right? Same thing goes with things like nuts. Sometimes recipes call for pine nuts or macadamia nuts. Those are very, very expensive. Yet you could use cashews, almonds, or walnuts to replace it. So if it calls for pecans, and pecans are sometimes quite expensive in a store, just use what you already have on hand, right? Use walnuts; they're a perfect substitution, and so forth. Same goes with sweeteners. Things like maple syrup or agave syrup, they often part of plant-based recipes, especially if you're making snacks or desserts and so forth. Those could be expensive. You can make an inexpensive date syrup at home. You just take a bunch of dates, which are quite cheap, and put some filtered water, mix it together in a blender, and you end up with this syrup like texture, and you can replace it for more expensive sweeteners. So those are some options here for you. And with that, make your own staples at home. Now, remember, I was talking about convenience will always cost more money, right? So right now, nut milks are super popular, and sometimes you can find them on sale, and it's good. But please read the ingredients, because a lot of these plant-based foods also have a lot of additives, and we can make those at home for sometimes half the price, and we are very much in charge of what goes into it. So consider making your own nut milk, plant-based cheeses. Those are delicious, but also they come with a big price tag, right? You can make your own plant-based cheese at home. Yogurts, coconut yogurts are super easy to make. And we have a recipe on our academy, and actually it's a step-by-step, almost like a masterclass to teach you how to make your own coconut yogurt. Nut butter is also another one to make at home. Jams, I already mentioned it, especially in the summertime when the fruit is in season and it's super inexpensive. Why don't we make our own jams, right? It doesn't have to be a daunting task. If you have family, if you have kids, you can always engage them in that activity as well. I have to be honest with you that some of my best memories from childhood is spending time with my grandmother in the kitchen and really learning how to do all these things. And it's fun to be coming back to it as an adult. And another thing is salad dressing. If you are buying a good quality salad dressing, it's shocking how expensive it can be. $15 for a bottle, where you can make a really good dressing at home for just a couple bucks. I already mentioned fermented foods. Those are good to make. Check out the academy. We have few there now. I think we have a sauerkraut, but we also have kimchi, and we have kvass, beet kvass on it, which is a really nice drink, fermented drink. And another thing you can easily make at home is broth, and that goes a long way. We have a recipe. I think I'll ask Nick to put it in the comments. We have a recipe for broth on Active Vegetarian. But just to give you a little tip, and that goes very much with what we are talking about here, eating on a budget, is saving food scraps and making broth from food scraps. And I've been thinking about actually creating a recipe. There's really no recipe, but just giving you some directions and posting it on our site, because it's something that we've been doing for years now, and I take it for granted, because I find it's just a part of my life, but most people don't know about it. But when you're making salads or stir fries and you're cutting your veggies, there's always parts of the veggies that are not being used. And or, for example, if you are peeling potatoes, you end up with the peels, right? If it's organic produce, it's still good. There's still nutrients in it. There's no reason to be throwing it away. Same thing goes with if you are cooking squash and you cut the squash and then you're taking the inside of the squash or the seeds out, save those. And we basically during the week, we put all these in bag or sometimes in like a glass container and store it in a fridge. And then towards the end of the week, we put it in a big pot, add some filtered water, good quality salt. Sometimes I put some seaweed in there and cook it for 2-3 hours. And you end up with an amazing broth that you made yourself. There's no extra, sodium or anything in it that you really don't want there. And you can use it during the week when you're making your soups or you're cooking. It's perfect. It's really, really good. Next thing is to favor nutrient-dense foods. Your money is going to go a longer way if you focus on nutrient density, right? It's the easiest way to describe it is what is more nutrient dense, a sweet potato or potato chips, right? So, and also what is less expensive. So usually the nutrient dense foods are going to be cheaper than the convenient food. And there are few things that are going to go a long way, a few foods that are really packed full of nutrients. The first one I want to mention is seaweed. It's amazing how a few people actually incorporate seaweed into their diet, but seaweed is a true superfood. It has a lot of minerals in it. It has iodine, which is very, very important, especially in the world we are living in, where we are surrounded with so much electromagnetic fields and radiation. Iodine really helps to protect our body against that. So seaweed is a great one to include into your diet. Another one is spirulina, similar, very high in protein, amino acids, iron, and so forth. Hemp is another one. A lot of times hemp seeds are not that pricey. They're really amazing addition to your diet. Goji berries are another one. All those foods that I'm mentioning, you don't need a ton of it. You can just add a tablespoon to your salad or to your smoothie, and you're going to end up with a lot of nutrients. Another one is bananas. Super simple, but bananas are really high energy foods. So it's a perfect opportunity for you to include it as a snack. Same idea as with dates, also very high energy. So for any athletes out there, or if you have children who are quite athletic and you want to make sure that then they're getting enough nutrients through the day, bananas and dates are a good option. Green leafy vegetables, you can never go wrong with those. They provide us with protein, they provide us with chlorophyll, iron. There's so much in them that is important, and many times they're not that expensive. Celery is another one. Chia seeds, make some chia puddings. They're very filling and satisfying. Pseudograins is another one. So pseudograins include things like quinoa, buckwheat, wild rice, amaranth, and so forth. So those are amazing. If you are going to try to make a decision whether to buy quinoa or rice, I would say go with the quinoa. You're gonna get more for your dollar. And lastly, buy seasonally, right? This is something that I really didn't mention too much, but buying things or produce that is in season is big. It's really big for many reasons. First of all, if you're buying, let's say, strawberries when they are in season in the summertime here in Canada, the price is definitely much lower than when I am trying to buy strawberries in the winter time. And personally, I would not buy strawberries in the winter time because they are not coming from a local farm. They're coming from very far away. A lot of times they are grown in a greenhouse, so they have not even seen proper sunlight. So the nutrient density is very, very low. So buy seasonally. And you can look at I believe they actually have it on our website, Active Vegetarian. We have a seasonal guide. So you can look at every single season of the year and see what is in season. If you're a little disconnected with that, which a lot of us are, one way to get a little bit more of a connection with what is in season is to, again, go to your farmer's market, because the farmer's market will only carry things that are local and that are in season. Next thing, let's reevaluate our comfort spending. Ooh, that's something that, many of us don't really want to touch, like our coffee from a coffee shop every morning on the way to work, right? But think about how much money we are spending there, and do we really need it? That's another thing. You can make a beautiful organic cup of coffee at home, and I'm not saying don't allow yourself, don't splurge once in a while, but if you're doing it on a daily basis, it will really start to collect, and you can spend easily $30-50 on just your morning coffee every single week. And the other thing is nutrient depleted snack foods. We were talking about nutrient dense foods, focus on those. But things like chips or soda or pop, whatever you want to call it, boxed cereals, candy bars, and so forth, there is hardly any nutrients in it. Sometimes, they're totally depleted of the things that our body needs in order to thrive. I get this from Nikki. She always says, when you look at food, ask yourself, what is it going to do for me? Because nothing in this universe is neutral. It's either benefiting you in some way or it's taking away, right? So a lot of these convenient snack foods are just depleting you of good health anyways. So why waste your money on it? And eat when you're hungry. That's another good tip. We think about food going to waste when we don't eat it. But if we are overeating, we are also wasting food. So ask yourself, am I really hungry? Or am I feeling bored or stressed or upset? Those are good questions to ask, because what are you really feeding? Are you trying to numb something within yourself with food? I know, a totally new topic, and probably again we can spend hours just talking about this, and we do in our integrated living. That's a big topic, is emotional eating. But for now, just I would say connect with it. Ask yourself, because a lot of the times it's extra food that we don't really need to be eating. Connect with your food, and that's really helpful when it comes to emotional eating as well. If we savor our food and we really sit down, we slow down, we chew our food properly, and we avoid distraction. So all we are doing is really just eating the food. It's nice to share food with somebody and really just focus on the food rather than being on your laptop or watching something, listening to something, reading something. Just be with your food. You're less likely to overeat when you do that. And finally, I want to say is to consider growing your own food. Yeah, it could seem like a big job, but you can start small. Start with something like herbs or microgreens or sprouts, and actually all three, herbs, microgreens, and sprouts, they're some of the most nutritious foods on the planet. And once you know and you learn how to grow it, you can do it anywhere. And you will always have access to fresh food. Isn't that amazing? We tend to have sprouts growing in our kitchen on a continuous basis, and it's a beautiful way also to connect with your food. And if you have the ability, and maybe you start with some herbs and some sprouts, and if you have the ability to expand it outside and start a small garden, do it. Honestly, there's no better time than now to start to take charge of your own food and really have access to fresh food in your own backyard. Amazing, absolutely amazing. All right, friends. It's been a while. I've been talking now about plant-based eating on the budget. I hope that it gave you some ideas on how to maybe implement some of these strategies into your own life. I know that money is a sensitive topic, and so is food, actually. Those two are pretty sensitive. So I want to thank you for your presence and for taking the time to learn and really digest this information. And if there's a final takeaway, because I have offered takeaways for every part during our session together. So the final takeaway is to be a conscious consumer. Because at the end of the day, we cannot control the price of food. We really can. But what we can control is how we are consuming the food and where we are spending our money, right? So if we are spending our money consciously, we are really helping not just ourselves, our families, but we are also helping our environment. So be a conscious consumer. It starts with us. It really does. And we have 3 choices every single day, at least 3 choices. We have our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So if we can think about making conscious choice every single time, we are really benefiting the world at large. And with that, I just want to say, be kind to yourself. This is a process. It won't happen overnight. So be kind. Prioritize your health. Make it work because your health and your well-being is really worth it. All right. If you have any questions, you can always type them into the chat box. I'll be happy to answer them. If you don't have any for now, that's perfectly fine. Leave us a comment. You can also check all the resources. We will leave them underneath the video so you can connect with it whenever it fits you, whenever it's convenient. And I hope to see you or at least connect with you virtually at some point soon. Bye for now.